should though, and I think.
Yep. All right. So I believe we are live. I'm just going to double check us on Facebook here. We're good. You got it streaming. All right, cool. Hey, everybody. Erica Reddick, generally irritable here. Super excited to have on as a guest today, Police Commissioner Karen Durfee from Burlington. Hello, Karen. How are you doing?
I'm great, Erica. Sorry about that. Couldn't get my mute button going.
That is okay. I am getting Facebook open on my other screen here. Now I'm just realizing all the ways that I used to do stuff with my setup because I had the multiple screens in front of me. I'm like, okay, how do I make sure that I can see Karen and also read questions? Oh my God, so many. Well, I have to say, I was really excited when you agreed to come on with me and talk. And I shared questions. Oh my God. All right. And when I started sharing around the event that you were going to be joining me, people were super excited, I think, because, you know, a lot of people in Burlington and around the rest of the state are just sort of like, what in the bleep is happening in Burlington? Like, what is this nonsense? What is this craziness? Especially with the news that we might not have coverage in the New North End at night because we've gotten down so low on the number of police officers we have. So what I'm really hoping for today, Karen, is that we kind of talk about what the role of the police commission currently is. So you're the commission that you're on, then learn a little bit more about this proposal from City Council, the charter change proposal. What exactly are they trying to do differently? What would that look like? And then how we can be supportive of BPD and of the commission generally to kind of push back against this anti-police, anti-law and order movement that we're seeing in the city, so that we can just make sure we're safe, you know, safe streets. I'll start by saying, you know, when I heard that there were gang-related shootings in the New North End this summer, I was like, what? Like, shootings in Burlington are crazy enough, but you hear about that stuff like downtown, not in the New North End of Burlington. And so the other thing I want to just kind of make sure we touch upon is that even though Burlington is a very small city, we're dealing with big city problems and what that means and how, you know, it relates to the commission and all that kind of stuff. So I know I said a lot of words there, but let's first start here and if you would share with our listeners, you know, who you are, what your background is, and why you decided to submit to join the police commission.
Okay, so I'm a Burlington resident of Ward 7. Originally looking to get on the police commission in 2018. That's just when I could get active. And I was concerned about some of the things with the former chief Del Pozo, some of the things that were happening. And I think a lot of citizens of Burlington were a little confused about what was happening. I did not get on. It took me another 2 years. I ran for, I was going to run for District 6-2. I submitted for the police commission, ready to get active after the murder of George Floyd. My partner also is very politically active in Burlington, and it was my turn. I told him it was my turn, stand aside. We finished, we had 2 teenage boys, and one is a senior and one moved out. So I was like, okay, it's time. And so for concern for the city, you know, obviously I wanted to get involved.
Yeah.
My background, I'm a grocery retailer, 35 years in retail. I have a master's in strategic resource management from Norwich University, and I'm from a military family.
Cool. Awesome. So, okay. So now so is this your first sort of foray into being in political life or being in the spotlight?
Indeed it is.
Now, I want to share that you actually You put your name in the hat for the Democrat nomination to run for the North District in Burlington. Is that correct?
It is correct. I forgot to mention that. That's my most recent endeavor.
So I know that the person who did get the nomination also has the progressive nomination, which I was really confused about. I figured if you're one, then you're not, then, why would you want to take a spot from another potential option? But maybe we don't need to.
Well, I think we were concerned. I mean, if you don't mind, I should have mentioned that we were concerned. The Democrats are concerned as well. There's been several. I mean, I think if you're in District 6-2, then you do realize what happened with our district representation. Gino Sullivan was knocked off by a progressive Democrat, Emma Mulvaney-Stanek, and there's been more elections run and won for folks who are having both the P and the D. And I thought it was important to give voters a choice and say, you know what, I'm a centric Democrat. I'm right in the middle here. Let's have a go for it. So, but go ahead.
Isn't it funny now that this is one of the things that I've thought was really interesting. And I've told people, like, I didn't think of myself as a conservative until I moved back to Vermont. And I'm like an alt-right person, basically, compared to the progressives. And so it's like a lot of people that I know that are Democrats or consider themselves Democrats are like, I am not for that. I'm not for defunding the police. I'm not for, bankrupting the state for the climate crisis. Like, I'm for reasonable things and I can do math. And I can't figure out, why do you think it is that they've been able to sort of hijack the Democratic Party?
Well, I think that there are a number of reasons. I think what I'm finding out in my burgeoning political career, and by the way, I don't have any reason to run for office except for that I care about the community. I'm concerned at a city level. I don't know a lot of people. I'm way at the tip of Ward 7, so hopefully I'll get there someday. But why are they? I think that it's really about ideology. I think that really we're not talking about practical solutions, and we're not talking about constituent conversations. We're talking about an ideology that's based in around the president of the city council, and the progressive councilors. So basically, what I had thought was that everything comes from the voters, and then I would go to the table as a city councilor and I would represent the North District, which is actually pretty politically where I'm at. I'm right in the center. There's more property owners out here. We're worried about
the landlords. They understand. Yep.
Yeah. And so I just didn't hear that, so I was like, okay, well, I'll just bring that to the table. So that didn't work out for me, but I'm not done trying.
Well, and that's what is so strange to me. I totally just lost my train of thought, but it was something that you said, the ideology, people are more moderate. Oh, did you know that even though, this is what's crazy, people are like, well, they voted for this and you guys keep voting for this. And I'm like, who's they and who's you guys? And I don't know if you heard this or not, but even with having a ballot mailed to every single registered voter, we still only had a 30% turnout in the state.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
And that's why we're here.
You not to vote this year and you still didn't vote. Like, what?
Well, I think, you saw that in 2018 too, Erica, where, I'm sitting around the table at, the BBA and other groups that I belong to. And, people are like, well, so-and-so's running. And there are a lot of uncontested races. I mean, currently we're not upset enough because.
How was it that Carol Odie and Bob Hooper ran unopposed for House Rep?
Well, I think at a city council level right now, we're looking at Jack Hansen's unopposed. I do believe
Ollie ran unopposed.
Ollie has been unopposed for some time. It's why we're here, Erica. You and I, we may not be politically aligned, but you know what? We're active. And that's the key, citizens. If you're going to complain on Facebook, and I really do, honestly, social media you're really not talking to anyone. Okay. Even though we're Facebook Living it and I love it, we're in COVID, right? So like if
Yeah.
it wasn't COVID, we would be out on the streets, like marching around being like, hey, what about this? What about that? So people are not active. People don't read. I have lots of things here that have to do with the police.
Yep.
Lots of resolutions, lots of things people don't
Oh,
read.
yeah. God, Karen. Okay. So now we're going to get into the police stuff. Okay. I'm going to collect myself. So I mentioned already the gang shooting in the New North End that happened. When I bring that up, people laugh at me and say that I'm making it up. When I tell people that we have had at least 2 sex trafficking rings busted up in Burlington in the last 18 months, people don't believe me. When I say that they are now shipping fentanyl across the northern border, well, maybe not so much now because of COVID, but that we were having drug trafficking coming through Canada because the border is so much easier to get through. So, and when I say that to people, they're like, that's not true. That's not real. That's some right-wing conspiracy. You're just making it up. And I'm like, do you not watch the news? I mean, I know they don't highlight it, but I know about it.
Well, that's the thing about being on the police commission. I'll plug that right now. I'll take the opportunity to plug public service right now, if I may.
Yes.
As a commissioner, your phone becomes the source of real things happening. You can actually you get an email from the chief of police saying, this happened.
For real?
For real.
Wait, as a commissioner or as a person?
As a commissioner.
Okay.
As a police commissioner. That's why I'm saying public service. I'm plugging public service.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Last time we had a police commission, last time we had an available seat, guess how many people applied? Back to our conversation. A lot of angry people out there, but there was an open seat.
And nobody was willing to step.
One person thought that they could go to a meeting that happens once a month. One person thought they had the time. And that's Professor Stephanie Seguino, who just joined.
Wow.
Who's an asset. She's a data person. So she actually knows numbers.
That's good.
And math.
So it's one of those things that's just mind-boggling to me, because people are like, I don't have any time. I'm super busy. I can't do that. And I'm like, you have time to complain on Facebook.
You do. You have lots of hours.
And I know you. I happen to know you, and I know your life, and I know that you've got a couple hours you could spend somewhere doing something. And if things are so terrible and you're so worried about your community, how do you demonstrate it other than service?
Don't know. Here I am, this unknown Black woman out here on the tip of Ward 7, putting myself out there, spending, not virtually knocking on doors, begging, trying to get funders, trying to, I was down here with the resolution this summer. I was down there with the racial justice resolution that passed, because I was getting all these emails from, as a commissioner, and other commissioners were getting them too. I don't know why they didn't go to the city councilors, but they came to us and they were asking questions about the actual.
Oh, wait, hold on. You know why they didn't go to their city councilors? Because the city councilors don't do anything. They don't care, or they do some nonsense. Like I can tell you, I will say, to her credit, Sarah Carpenter has responded to me a couple of times that I have messaged her. Kurt Wright did not respond to a single email, phone call, or text message I sent him when he was still my city councilor in Ward 4. I rarely, if ever, get a response back from Carol or Bob when I write to them about stuff. And actually, this is a funny story. I volunteer for this organization called Convention of States, and the resolution or the application has to start in the Government Affairs Committee in the House. And I reached out to a couple of Republicans that were on the committee and asked them for support and to help. And when I showed up, Bob was there, and he was all mad that I hadn't asked him first. And I was like, dude, you don't respond to me. And when you do, you tell me to stuff it, basically, that you don't care what I have to say. So
I would say that's a great segue into responsiveness of your city councilor. Okay, so I would know. So as a police commissioner, when I first got on, I reached out to Allie Dang, who, pardon the noise in the background, there are Christmas decorations being put up as we speak.
Totally fine. We actually, there's a
Cool,
Taekwondo class happening in the other room here.
and I heard someone laughing in the background. So, but anyway, so let's talk about. I got great response. I reached out to Ali Dang, and he and Joan Shannon and Chip Mason had written an amended proposal of sorts. You know, they at least, you know, when the racial justice resolution was going to pass, there were concerns about the staffing on the police department, which is what we're really going to talk about today. And they, you know, that was responsive to what people in the North District were asking. And I did feel represented at that time. I really did. I felt like he went and said, okay, we really need to be practical about this. We need to think about the long-term effects. So I did appreciate that.
But I totally interrupted you. So you were saying that the racial justice thing and some people reached out to you as a police commissioner about it.
I mean, I have just gotten on the police commission, and students were confused. A few students reached out, folks that were in the encampment wanting to know or claiming certain things, and I remember the first email I got, I don't remember the woman's name, but it was like, I have questions. And she literally had a lot of questions about the resolution that passed. And I was able to answer those questions, and myself and some other commissioners. And so it got to the point where I went down to the encampment and passed out the resolution so that the people who were protesting could understand what in fact they were supporting. So we're talking about misinformation on both sides. You know, it's not just constituents sitting in their homes hoping that bibbity bobbity boo, it's all fixed. And it's not students who are protesting and not realizing, oh, shoot, I said that. And it's not, you know, people who are, you know, left, right, center. It's misinformation. And I really do believe that that's the case with the police commission versus the charter change resolution. It's really a lot of misinformation.
Well, and so that racial justice issue and the resolutions that have already passed that have defunded BPD basically. And so what do you know what the goal actually, I know they called it racial justice or whatever, but do you know what the logic was behind reducing police presence when we do have legitimate crime and problems? What was their thought?
So this is not a new concept. I mean, go all over the place. You know, Austin is one of the biggest police departments to talk about reform, talk about defunding. Defunding is a bad word, and I know people are just, you know, really, you know, oh, why does Obama say it? It's like, it is a bad word. He's right, and you know why? Because it's reallocation of services. So let me just say that first. So the racial justice resolution was
but part of it did reduce the number of officers.
It did. Where was that money supposed to go? Well, here's how it works in conventional reform. The money was supposed to go towards making sure that, and this is, you know, you can talk to the police about this, to the police chief about this too. So there are some things that the police are responding to, like mental health crisis, which we defunded in this state 30 years ago. Let's not forget that we decided we did not need mental health services here.
Oh my God.
So now the police are having to respond to these calls. So this, I think the resolution to your question was an attempt to answer and reform that. You know, saying, okay, there is, statistics do show that racial profiling happens here. The use of force is off the charts, 27% of, I mean, there's some really kind of, you know, scary numbers. And so the racial justice resolution did seek to speak to that, is well done. What happened was all of the things that were supposed to support these gaps, like someone is having a mental health crisis, be it a child, be it an adult, be it whatever, and the police are consistently responding. Someone is just calling to complain about their neighbor. So these things were supposed to be in the resolution taken care of. Okay, we're gonna have somebody else respond to those, And then that way there,
Which sounds reasonable.
Right.
Sounds
Right.
reasonable
Sounds
in theory.
So,
Right.
so in theory, so that's what defunding is. It's actually reallocation, and it means that all these other people come in and do the job so that you don't need as many police officers. However, that work should be done prior to deciding that the police force can reduce by attrition. Number one, here's what that does. A, you can't diversify the police force. You cannot hire, if there are issues, you cannot hire any police officers of color. You cannot go in and say, okay, you know what, we're going to take a look at what's going on here. And you're not performing. Let's bring up Officer Drinkwine now. I think that's a good time to bring him up. So here's a guy who was complained on. I wasn't on the commission, but he wasn't a really nice police officer. Let's just say that. And he leaves. He gets charged for doing something he shouldn't have done. And so now what do we do? Nothing, right? Because you can't replace him. Really good police officers retire. Can't replace him. Can't. So basically, what needs to be done before, and what usually is done in defunding efforts, is what happens is there's an assessment of the police department done. It's a person comes in, a system, people come in with an RFP, there's an RFP out, and the police commission is working on that, request for proposal. Usually the police commission's operations, staffing levels, everything, their admin and everything is assessed before you cut the funding.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And I don't even want to say usually, because that's probably not true. It probably just happens, and then you're supposed to like figure out what's happening, right?
Right.
You're supposed to say, okay, I don't know. So anyway, the RFP, the assessment of the police department, Burlington Police Department, is happening. We are working on it. In my mind, and I'm only going to speak for myself, it should have been done prior, because then you know where is the performance level of each police officer? Who's going to retire? Who's going to reach retirement?
Well, and when you've got people like all the new hires end up getting let go, and they're all the diversity hires. So Burlington goes out of its way to hire all these new diverse officers to join the force, and then they end up being the first ones to get screwed over.
Well, I think what will happen is, the concern, and I think there are a number of concerns. Number one, that no one will want to work in Burlington, Vermont.
Oh, they already don't.
I
tell you right now from conversations with police officers, I know at least one who re-enlisted in the Army. Okay, he would rather go to a war zone than be a police officer in Burlington, because he now has no protection. So if anything goes wrong, or he has an unfortunate circumstance with a person, now he can go to jail. Now he's going to face charges. Now, no, why would a person do that? Why would they come?
Are you talking about as a police officer, he could be charged? Are you talking about
when the racial justice people were talking about how, they're
that's a case. So
immunity, and we're going to do,
So it's really, again, there's misinformation abound. So basically, right now, the officers are protected under the same exact contract as they have been under the until 2022. So there's no, and it's very tough to explain. And what I've been trying to tell people is qualified immunity protects police officers constitutionally. So they are allowed to do quite a few things that most citizens are not allowed to do.
And for the record, hold on. So it's not just police. Qualified immunity is for
government officials,
city councilors, the mayor, your House representative. Like people think that's just a police thing.
Nope.
That's why you can't sue the city. You can't have a class action lawsuit against the city.
I think we have some really good national examples of what qualified immunity means, and I'll leave it at that. But FYI.
Yes.
So back to your question, I think really, and I know that it's tough to say, but I don't believe that ordinary citizens that are involved in this conversation want the worst for Burlington. I think people are thinking that they're working towards the best solution for Burlington. So let me know when you want to talk about the charter change. I don't want to get off the rails.
No, that's good. No, this is good. Going off the rails is half the point of the show. So I will say, I was just going to ask you something. This is one of my big frustrations with a lot of these conversations is, you know, everybody's like, oh, police officers shouldn't be dealing with mental health people. And it's like, well, most mental health people won't go unless they have a police officer so that they know that they're safe. A lot of these people are psychotic, they're on drugs. And so, you know, your average social worker doesn't have, hasn't been training at the jujitsu gym in South Burlington and have hand-to-hand combat training and all the other stuff that a lot of our officers do. So they're not even safe responding to these calls. And
Are you talking about social workers?
Say that again?
Social workers, is that what you're talking about?
Correct. They're not, I mean, if you have if a person who's having a psychotic break and they're being violent, they're attacking people, you can't send a social worker to take that.
Have you talked to Lacey Smith?
No, I have not.
So Lacey Smith, and so this is another thing that people don't know about the police department. The police department has community liaisons. Lacey Smith has spent her career as a behavioral interventionist, Howard Center. She's just done an amazing job. She's one person, she's of color, and she goes out in the community, and what she can do with somebody she knows everybody on the street. She's essentially the Howard Center Street team elevated and with more power and more skill and more education. One woman, okay? She's one woman. She has one other staffer. She needs a few more counterparts is what she needs. She's not sworn, but she can do the work that people really, a police officer cannot give you a ride to pick up your prescription. A police officer cannot sit down for untold hours and talk you out of what you're thinking going to do. That she does an amazing job. She does an amazing job. The CJC does an amazing job. The SROs. I'm a proponent of SROs. I like the SROs. There's a lot of support in this community already for police officers. I mean, it's just they're underfunded and misunderstood. The whole setup of the police department is not as everyone thinks it is.
Oh, Karen, you're frozen.
No.
Well, Karen is frozen. Hopefully she'll be back with us momentarily. Oh, we lost you for a minute there, Karen.
We'll move over to the other room where the lighting's not as good, but I'll be by my monitor because when I start flipping around, you never know what'll happen. Anyway, we're on.
So this Lacey person, if she were to be called out to, say, somebody who was having a psychotic break,
yep,
would she have the capacity to defend herself if they attack her?
She's a behavioral interventionist. My daughter is a behavioral interventionist. Yeah, she can put you in a hold. I mean, it depends on what she will respond to certain things. She has limitations of her office. There's limitations. I think the whole staffing thing about how many police officers we needs to be assessed by a professional entity.
Who actually knows what we're dealing with.
Yes, because we cannot, and that's the point that I'm trying to make is we absolutely cannot continue on with city governance thinking that we know exactly how many people. And then, you know, the chief of police is saying we're going to lose our midnight shift in the New North End. So let's talk about that for a second. Let me just give you some background. So I am a grocery retailer. I'm an operations manager for big retail, right? So our scheduler is a computer, right? It knows how many people come, beep, 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 what time they come. And it can really get aggregate data, and it can say, here's how many people you need, here's where they're needed, here's where the crime is.
Wait,
and this is what
you want to use math and data?
I do.
What?
I do.
Hold on just one second. we've got a house full of people here. Sometimes that makes it challenging.
That's okay. I mean, you know,
I need an on-air sign on the door.
that's okay because I just threw my dog out of the seat with one hand. So anyway, yeah, I want to use math and data. And so the good news is that it's going to happen. It's happening. It's behind schedule. Again, I'm going to say it again. I think the intention in Burlington, I know as a conservative, this is hard to hear, but I think the intention in Burlington was to create a safe space. Now we've found 6 months later that it's not so safe and that we might want to do some rethinking of that. So what's going to happen is,
and this is what's so funny, Karen, is people think like conservatives that we're just automatically like, no, that's stupid and we don't want to talk about anything. It's like, no, it just has to be, you just have to do it smart. You can't just start slashing stuff because it sounds good or it tickles your little butterflies in your stomach. It has to be real, you know? And so it's actually one of the things, and we've got a bunch of questions. So
great, let's do it.
But so this would be the one thing that I always say that's very frustrating to me is, you know, the city council and our state's attorney, Sarah George, and the mayor and people like that say, well, we're not going to prosecute people for committing crimes. We're going to not prosecute lower level this. We're not going to prosecute this. And the effect of that is that we're leaving. Now, I'm not saying that they should be in jail. I'm not saying that that's an awesome solution. You said earlier, we abandoned our mental health crisis back in the 80s, and it's continued to grow and be a problem. And instead of dealing with that mental health crisis, we're saying, you know what, you committed a crime and you're harming your community, but you're mentally ill and you're sick. So we're just going to leave you on the street. We're just going to leave you on the street in your mental illness and your drug addiction and whatever else is wrong with you. And we're going to call that mercy. And then we're going to be confused why those same people have unfortunate interactions with police officers. And it's like, you hold those two things at the same time.
True. I think the resolution that we're talking about is really about racial disparities, which I do believe need to be reformed. You know, I'm from the South. I've said it before. I can tell you some stories about my interactions with police officers and my son's interaction with police officers. My son's 37. So I do wholeheartedly agree that we need to reform, and we need to do it with math. And so,
was that in Vermont or was that in the South?
My son had problems with the state police here in Vermont. And then I had problems in the South. I've also had problems, you know, outside of Burlington. I've certainly had problems with profiling and other items with the police. Yeah. However, you know, I am a strong believer in order and safety. I've also had crimes against me. So I'll just leave it at that.
That's why I'm like, I talk about this a lot with people like, you know, I was a drug addict. I'm 11 years. I celebrated 11 years sober this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do it again.
And people are like, I'm like, do you guys not get that if I hadn't been arrested and had to serve time in jail, I might not be sober today? Like that for me was the slap I needed to go, okay, wait a second. My life isn't going well. Maybe something needs to change. You know, when you're like normal, innocent little person from Milton, Vermont, and then you get caught up in all this nonsense, and then you're in jail and your cellmate is in for murder and attempted murder, and all you did was steal some stuff to support your drug habit. You don't want to go back there. You know, that was a big wake up call for me. But okay, so let's see what we got for questions here. And just a reminder, everybody, today with me, I've got Karen Durfee, Police Commissioner Karen Durfee of the Burlington Police Commission. She's here to talk about the Police Commission, the charter change proposal. We'll get into that shortly after we get some questions. I have a feeling some of these questions are going to be about that. So Jeff says, police commission versus citizen oversight. Why not just empower the existing police commission, right? So we've already talked about that.
I agree with Jeff.
What's that?
I agree with Jeff.
Yeah. Well, hold on. So we're going to get back to that. Jeff, we're going to get back to that because that's going to be the next section. So let's see. We had a police commissioner in the New North End, who served a year and raised great questions, but he got in trouble by the city council and was replaced. Oh yeah, he swore. I cut that out. So it sounds like even like when people try to participate, they kind of get run out on the rails.
I wouldn't say that. That's not exactly, I mean, that's not been my experience. I think Mark Hughes of the Racial Justice Alliance did just leave, and I don't believe he was run out on the rails.
Okay, fair. Okay, let me see. According to BPD Union, if your house is robbed or you are attacked after midnight in Burlington, the police will not be able to respond until shift change. No, that cannot be correct. It just means we aren't going to have a police officer stationed or like sitting around, driving around in the New North End. Is that correct?
So I'm not really sure about the question. Is that about existing policing policy that they won't respond until shift? That
goes to that question of not having enough police for the overnight shift.
Well, I think that's a separate question. I think this person might be talking about existing. I've heard this before where someone's asked about the shift has to change before someone can respond. And that's a question for Chief Murad, and he's always happy to answer those types of questions. I think if we're talking about the midnight shift now as it stands, again, the chief is saying that if we lose any more officers, this will be the first thing to go. And I want to go back to my grocery retail story real quick.
Oh, so, yeah.
It's busy. Beep, 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 beep. What's the busiest time in a grocery store? 5 o'clock, right? 5:30. Okay.
After work.
Yeah, after work. Okay. If I am going to lose staff, if I have, 20 out of 40 people quit, where do you think those people are going to be? After 5.
After 5, like dinner time.
Like, so people, there's a contract. And so if I have seniority, I don't have to do the night shift. Okay. So that there's a contract at City Market. That's the same way. But what happens is if I lose everybody, I can't force you to work the night shift. But if that is the only work I have to work with you to make that happen. The busiest shift on the police department needs to be a question that the community is asking the police chief. What is the busiest shift? Now, I know the answer to that, but I'm not giving you the answer. And you know why? Because people need to show up at police commission meetings, call in with their questions, because this is a big deal. The police chief has said, New North Enders, North District folks, he said, you're going to lose your overnight. So if you are, then you need to call and find out what are the alternatives and be part of a conversation.
So when are y'all's meetings, and how can they, because it's not in person anymore. So how does a person get on like a mailing list or something like that to find out when the meetings are?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to post the link. So all you have to do, so when we're done, I'm going to post the link for police commission meetings, because police commission meetings are supposed to happen very consistently. The third, we meet the third Tuesday of every month, but we've moved it around for the holidays. We move it around for special meetings. Obviously the police commission prior to me joining met for hours and hours and hours. So let me empower the citizens listening to go to our city website, and you can just see all of the government meetings, because the police commission is not the only one that you need to be involved in. You need to see the joint committee and the police commission. I will post those links. I post those links all the time.
Okay, so wait, there's the police commission, right?
Yeah.
What's the joint committee?
So the joint committee was due to form July 15th. I don't think we got together until August. But we were late getting it together. It's provision of the resolution, racial justice resolution, and it means that the city council and the police commission get together. Okay, we get together and get to work on implementing this resolution. And so that'll be meeting on the 22nd, 5:30 on the 22nd, this Thursday.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Good information. Wait, so this may be a reason why, oh, yeah, somebody said this may be a reason why people don't step up, and it was related to another one. I can tell you, I've had a number of people who either wouldn't admit that they were voting for me, won't admit that they're conservative, won't admit, like, fill in the blank, who they voted for at all or who they support, because they're afraid of losing their jobs, losing their businesses. I can't tell you how many people said they wouldn't donate to my campaign because they didn't want it to go on the Secretary of State's website. I mean, literally countless business owners and people that I needed to support me to fund a campaign and actually fight. Like, Kesha Ram raised like $80,000 or more for her Senate campaign. And I ran my campaign on $9,000, I think. And I can't, again, countless people would not donate. So there are people who won't participate because they're afraid of the backlash that they're going to receive for anything that they say, really.
Well, I've got to say, Erica, I've got to, I am not conservative. I'm, but by Burlington standards, I may be very conservative. I might be, in line voting with the Republicans, but I'm not conservative. I'm a Democrat. I'm a staunch Democrat. Here I am talking to you. You hit me up, said, hey, why don't you be on my show? I don't care. Of course I'll be on your show, because I want people to know where to get information, what's being said, who to ask. So do you. So see people, two people talking.
Well, and this is Karen, and I pull no punches with a lot of those people. I said, okay, so what you're telling me is you're a coward and you don't actually care about this city, and you don't actually care about the problems, and you don't care about the people who are going to be harmed. You're more concerned about your comfort than
but that's true.
Real problems. And so, like, a lot of people I had really good friends who will send me stupid videos all the time about politics. And then when I was like, hey, can you come flyer with me? They were like, oh, I can't do that. And I was like, lose my number.
Yeah, there are politicians that won't do that. There are people who will say, you know what, you'd be really great. And then you call them and they'll say, yeah, I can't, for whatever reason. You can't care. You can't.
I'm like, I was told, actually, my sweet, wonderful husband was like, Erica, you can't call people cowards if you want them on your side. And I'm like, but being polite about it clearly isn't working.
Well, $9,000 is a lot of money for a city council race there.
Oh, that was for my Senate race.
Okay. All right.
That was for my Senate race. But let's see. I'm looking to see, is there any of these other ones that last week? Okay, people are having a conversation. There's a bunch of comments. I'm trying to figure out if any of these are questions or if it's just...
They're talking about it. Great.
Yeah. What were the complaints? Never heard this. You can no longer carry in Burlington? That can't be right. Is that a thing?
He said, thanks to the mayor, you cannot protect yourself because you can no longer carry in Burlington.
Is that a thing? Not that you would know. That's not a technically.
We talked about guns. As far as I know, this is the only constitutional carry state.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't. Can the
an ordinance? That's a question for your city councilor.
No.
You should be able to call.
I love it. My big thing is, yeah, there's a lot here, babe. Can you direct me to any that would be, so I don't stop? And okay.
Well, I can keep talking. Let's talk about, we can look at that while I talk about the charter change proposal. We never.
Oh yeah. So let's while he's looking for ones for me to address specifically, why don't you tell people a little bit, because like you said, there's a lot of, all right. So there's a lot going on and there's a lot of misinformation. Now I will just say, it's hard not to believe all of the nonsense that you hear, because what's real is also nonsense. So it's like, okay, it's misinformation or it's hyperbole. And it's like, well, how do you tell the difference? So what is the charter change actually trying to do that's different than what the police commission does already?
The charter change has different parameters. Okay, so, and I encourage everyone, please, I beseech you to read the charter change. Charter change is available. People can read it. Essentially, it's a citizen oversight board. And
Citizen oversight board. Now, hold on.
Citizen control board.
A citizen control board. But isn't the police commission also citizens?
Oh, yeah. I'll outline the few.
Okay.
So the differences are, it's got a different hiring process. It does have a director. It has some paid staff. People get paid. They need to be selected out of certain demographics. And they cannot have anything to do with the police. They cannot have any relatives to do, no relatives with the police, no nothing. And it actually, in my mind and in some of the other folks who have spoken on this, creates a little bit of, creates bias against the police department. There are two other proposals. One is Moreau Weinberger's proposal, and the other one was created by City Attorney Eileen Blackwood. Eileen's, I thought, was if we want a separate board, Eileen's was the most doable, and it was to give more power to the police commission. The police commission, what do they do? First of all, I really want to say this. The police commission is comprised of people of color. There's one white member. She has a black son. So one of the big asks was, okay, we want marginalized citizens to be on this control board. We're all marginalized on the police commission. I mean, every single one of us. So we meet that criteria if the people want that. The other thing is we needed to be, citizens. It's just a citizen oversight board. We're not trained. We're not connected to the police. The contrary to popular belief, people see the chief of police on police commission Zoom meetings and think he's a member. He is not a member of the police commission.
No, he's just there to give information, right?
So we need to share information. And we also do bring in folks like, hopefully we'll be hearing from the CJC. Sometimes we hear from the Howard Center. Sometimes.
So wait, can you tell everybody what CJC is?
Yes. So I think the most important, CJC is the Community Justice Center.
Community Justice Center. Okay.
And so, and that what folks do sometimes, folks are referred there, but there's also for restorative justice. So restorative justice is, you did graffiti, you're going to go clean it up. You did the proactive way to help people, work through the mistakes that they've made in the community, like you said.
And so those organizations you said are represented in the police commission.
No, they would come. This is some examples of the work we do. Like they would come and present. They would come and talk to us about what they do, how they work with police. Howard Center would come and say, "We're doing this with the police." The police commission also looks over policy, procedure, is asked to edit it at times. And basically we also oversee every complaint that comes into the citizens portal. There's a complaint portal now and everything is electronic. All the complaints that come in, we see every single one. And then in an executive session, we talk about any discipline towards police officers, any kind of oversight that, is not for public consumption. We do discuss that as well. So we're essentially performing what this control board would do is it would some folks would say this will create a government redundancy. The police commission and the control board, why? Why do you need both of them? And what happens if we don't agree? So basically it's a ballot item. You will vote on it. They're going to ask you to vote on it. You better read it and decide for yourself whether you want to vote on it. That's the most important thing. That's why I'm on this show, because I want you to be able to read these ballot items and then go and vote with, hey, you know what? If you vote for it, great. If you vote against it, great. But don't vote if you don't know. Don't check that box. Don't check it and say, oh, I know all about it.
Well, and that's what it seems like, we were talking earlier. I said, when I ran for city council, I wasn't running against Sarah and Kurt. I was running against ignorance and apathy. And not ignorance like you're stupid, but ignorance as in people are not informed. People did not understand, what does it mean to have a school budget of $14 bajillion? What is the effect of that on my neighbor lady who is an elderly woman who's just trying to age in place? When they make charter changes so that people can't rent Airbnbs anymore, it's like there's no consideration for what it actually means. And so to me, putting something like this on the ballot is incredibly what is the right word?
I used tone deaf in my stump speech. If you want to use tone deaf, I'll let you use it.
Well, it's irresponsible.
It's irresponsible, but it's also not listening to the voters. So you're a conservative. I'm a Democrat. Until I moved here, I thought I was a liberal. Guess not. Too old. But listen,
you do math, Karen. You can't be a liberal if you do math.
Right. Get out of here. You asked how much things cost. Stop it. But no, the point I'm trying to make is we both care about our neighbors. You can care about your neighbors. I want police reform. I want Black people to be safe. Your husband's Black. How could you not want Black people to be safe? But you don't really need a ballot item in a COVID recovery time that has the potential to cost taxpayers money. No one asked for most of the things that are being discussed at a city level. And so I'm not running for office on the police commission. So let's reel it back in.
Okay. So what exactly is this new thing supposed to do that's different from what the police commission already does?
It will be further removed from the police. I think that's the biggest that is, and I think you should invite folks, if folks want to come on your show, city councilors, and they can explain. But basically, they don't trust the commission, or I don't want to even say that. They believe that the police commission should have more powers and not be the police commission, be a separate board. I think there's support to continue to have the police commission and this oversight board, but I think it really creates a government redundancy. And if something happens, say Officer Drinkwine, gonna mention your name again for you should have done what you did. Officer Drinkwine, was an officer that was in the paper. It's not secret. So how long would that process take if it involves two government bodies and the mayor and the chief?
That sounds like it'll just make everything worse.
Well, it's just gonna take a longer time. And if Black people of color want action, then it's gonna have to go through this body, then that body, or maybe the police commission doesn't exist, and then it goes through this other body, and that's okay. But as long as we've done the math and we can make sure that the community can afford it, because right now that's not the case. Now we're trying. There's a pandemic.
Was there a question you found in?
Yeah. One is Trevor Powell asked, how badly would Burlington be held up by going down to 75 officers? It still sounds like a lot.
How bad would Burlington be held up
how difficult would it be for Burlington to only have 75 officers?
To only have 75 officers? Well, we're supposed to have 105.
No. So I think that's a good point. That's a good question. You know what, Trevor? That's a great question, because it does sound like a lot. It sounds like a lot to me. And what it sounds like is we need somebody to look at our data and say, which is happening very soon, how many police officers do we need? What are the police officers doing? Where are they? What do they react to? How do we need them? Where do we use them? And someone who really understands what the chief is saying, which is like, there's a ton of admin, right?
Right.
Sworn officers, should be on the street, but some of them have administrative duties. So it's not just about, I guess if we get desperate, because I've done that too. And I've said, I'll do it. I'll do the 5 to 8 shift and I'll run the store. Guess what? That doesn't work. So I
Well,
think
because that's not just 75 officers is not just the people driving around in cars all day. That's your detectives, right? So that's Koozie, right? The special victims unit. So kids that have been, or women who, or anybody who's been sexually
I
assaulted.
can give you.
Oh, what
Okay,
numbers?
so Burlington Free Press actually has an article
Oh,
on this.
okay.
It says there are 81 officers on patrol or answer calls in the community. At current level, 41 officers are available for patrol if no officers are off duty or on vacation, Murad said.
41.
that's the chief. I know that's Chief Mira.
He said 41 are available for patrol if no
Right.
officers are off duty or on vacation.
On vacation. 41. So there's 41 patrol officers.
So this is to your point, what you said. Here's the misinformation. We know we have 75. 75 is an emergency. We have 81. 41 are available for patrol. So we're talking about, he's talking exactly what we're talking about, which is there are administrative duties. There are a ton more other things that need to happen. So, and that's
Yep.
right. So back to the map.
Oh, the airport. That's right. That's a whole other. There's 8 officers at the airport.
And I'll tell you, they probably all have seniority. So it's
Oh,
not,
they do. I know that. I've
yeah,
heard.
so it's not as if you can say, hey, guess what? You're going to go. First of all, you have to have officers at the airport. You have to have them.
I
And
bet you that's even like a federal law
It is.
about how many they have to have and whatever.
so I think Trevor had a great question, and I think Chief Murad has answered it. And and what we were saying was the administrative duties. I mean, the work that these people do and churn out is insane. And so again, if you only, if you're looking at the number of officers, you're not looking at them by shift or whatever. But back to the midnight shift, which I will say, because I'm sure Chief Murad is listening. We need someone to come in and work with him to quantify this data and say, here's the math, this is what we have. He has been very active with this request for proposal that we're working on that does the assessment. He wants to do the assessment because if someone is going to say 74 is enough, great. We just went through 12 proposals from people who really want to help us out. I don't want people to be too, I don't want to paint a picture where I don't want to scare citizens. I don't want to be standing up here saying, oh my God, because I have a lot of trust in our police department. We do have a good police department. But when the chief of police says these numbers, I can't speak to the midnight shift and all of that, but I can tell you that, right now, you really need to listen to what people have to say about this because it's always about numbers. And people are running around in the New North End saying, we're going to lose the midnight shift. We're going to lose the midnight shift. I kind of have faith. I have faith that we probably will work as a city together when we realize that we're not going to be safe anymore. And
I've talked to some police officers and they're already saying at the numbers that we're at, they're working overtime, they're working double shifts, they're having to make up for the lack of other officers. And I'm like, oh, so the solution to having some problem officers is to make all of the other officers more tired, more stressed out,
let's
resources.
Let's go back to the grocery store for that. So all of a sudden, everybody quits. And I say, hey, guess what? You guys can work all the hours you want. What kind of service are you going to get?
And then what kind of officers are you going to attract when they don't feel like they're being supported? Are you going to get the good, Captain America types? Or are you going to get the, the jerk who just wants power? I'm getting waved at from behind my camera.
John, who's the chief? John
Murad. Chief Murad.
You better make him the host. Because
so here's the thing. I took BPD did a presentation. It's on YouTube and it's on their Facebook page. And I read the ending night coverage ending overnight coverage section.
Ever ending overnight coverage
Yeah,
section.
it says Vermont State Police do not currently have 24-hour coverage. If the BPD's available staffing for patrol falls below 36,
Falls below 36 and we're at
officers,
41.
the BPD will follow suit in order to maximize coverage during the hours when call volume is highest. The BPD would end in-person response during the hours when call volume is lowest, which is 3 a.m. to 7:30 a.m.
So we got our
and
answer.
only accept online reports or reports by phone. I believe they said there'd be 3 officers physically in the office at that time.
Oh yeah, because you got to have somebody to answer the phone and do whatever. And then
When sworn personnel falls,
hold on one second. Can y'all hear him? Can you hear him, Karen?
Yeah.
You can? Okay.
when sworn personnel falls to below 76 and or the number of officers available for patrol falls to below equal, I think it's equal or less than 36, the BPD will not have proactive night coverage.
We won't have
Overnight.
proactive. So basically, if somebody breaks into your car and steals your stuff, nobody's going to come out till the next morning.
Well, so he's saying, so it's very important. The 3 to 7:30 is the shift. So everyone running around saying midnight is incorrect.
Yeah.
Could that happen? Sure. I strongly suggest, this man has put a lot of time in these presentations. So we're going to post the link on the YouTube channel for people to
Yep.
see. And you're going to post it on your networks. I've sent it to everybody. Every time somebody asks me a question about staffing, and I just send them the link to that.
Yeah.
And
That's what
you know what? He's on
I'm writing down notes of things that we need to add in the links in the description after.
Well, he's also on Facebook Live doing your show. And
Oh, he is?
And I mean, that's John Murad.
He's in our chat?
That's who your husband's reading.
Well, yeah, but he's not in it. But yes, he is.
But he's answering on a live show. So that should tell you something about how he is probably very frustrated about misinformation and information not getting out there. And he's been working very, very hard to ensure that people know what is going to happen, what's actually happening. And he is a resident of the North District.
He actually is. He's a neighbor. I've emailed him and I've asked him to come on. He has not responded to me yet. I expect the answer is probably no, but
those government officials, had I won? No, I would, I end up, I think it's really important to really put the resources out there for folks. People should read the racial justice resolution. People should read the charter change ballot proposal for the police control board. People should watch John's YouTube presentation. I've been obsessed with it for a long time, and people should be tuning into police commission meetings, and they should be tuning in to the joint committee meetings if they care about policing in Burlington.
So one of the, you might have talked about this earlier already, Karen, so forgive me. And for everybody who's just tuning in, I have as a great guest with me this evening, Police Commissioner Karen Durfee from Burlington Police Commission. So when you are having people reach out to you as a police commissioner, so anybody with questions about the racial justice stuff or whatever, are you getting a ton of people? Are you hearing a lot of support, as an example, for this charter change? Like, what are you hearing from people who are reaching out to you and contacting you? Do they think it's good? Do they think it's stupid? What are you hearing from the community?
Well, I'm a Democrat, so we voted against party lines against it. But no one calls a Black woman and says this is stupid. They're not going to call me.
Well, no, not the racial justice thing.
The charter change is part of that. The charter change is a direct result of police reform that was started by the racial justice resolution. So it's all connected. It is.
I see.
And so it's racial and economic justice. So I dare say that there's some links to some other things that have other charter change meetings that have happened as well. So
got it. Okay.
Well, I'm a police commissioner. I'm a woman of color. I do have people, friends who want the control board. There's folks who think it's a good idea. No one tells me it's stupid, although most people support the police commission in a greater role because I'm a police commissioner. So why would you call me up and tell me that?
Okay, we got a question.
It's a complex one, so listen.
Okay.
Quick question from Dale Tillotson. it seems we want the police commission to have the power to hire and fire. Do we go further with each and every other city department? If not, why not? And no civilian commission should have that power.
Oh, interesting. So basically, the new commission would have hiring, firing power, which right now that still rests with the police chief, right? And the mayor?
You know, I don't know. I'm not familiar with language about hiring. I think discipline,
Disciplinary.
the discipline, you know, having citizen oversight on discipline. The police commission works with the chief. The mayor has the authority. We don't, we currently, under the way we currently operate, we don't have those. If that's the question, we don't have those. And he's saying, should we, and why, why not?
Well, and it's one of the things is like, we don't have citizen oversight of any other city board or city whatever. Like,
I don't have the expertise to hire a police officer. I don't have the expertise to hire a police officer. I've been a recruitment professional and I don't have the expertise to do that. That's not something, that's what police officers do. That's what the chief of the police does. Do police officers need a different hiring mechanism? Do they need psychological batteries? Do they need more, a more rigorous, maybe some different training? Yes, unequivocally. But no, we don't hire. No, I don't think we should hire. As far as discipline is concerned, citizens should be represented and they should be able to weigh in when an officer is under investigation. And especially if it's, it's generally, harm to the community. I mean, you are a public official. So I think.
But, okay, hold on. Wait, though. My only concern with that is even you on our hour-long call so far have talked about how much misinformation there is out there and how much people talk. And with some of the police, disciplinary stuff that's come up the last couple of years, I've heard some wild stories from people about what happened or what didn't happen, what is considered appropriate police conduct versus not. And people just say stuff. And I don't think I want those people deciding the fate of a police officer.
So the way it works now is that the chief of police is the chief of police. He is the chief of police. He makes those decisions. He's making those. You've got the chief, you've got the mayor. What I'm saying is we go into an executive session and the chief of police shares this with us in confidence. So he's not making these decisions in a vacuum. He's not making these decisions without oversight. He's not making these decisions autonomously. And that's good for him too, because we saw what happened in 2018.
So this is already happening then.
What's that?
So yes. This is already happening. So this information
it's been happening.
Well, then what the heck is the complaint about?
Well, the complaint is police can't police themselves. And so what would happen if we change to, there are people who wrote this resolution that are much more intelligent than I am and can speak intelligently on this. And I hope they would come on your show. But that's why there is a citizen oversight board proposal. There is a belief in the community that police should have absolutely nothing to do with the discipline, the oversight. And there is some provisions made in the amended resolution that, there's some involvement, that's necessary at a city level, that includes the mayor.
But I'm so confused. What am I missing? If you're saying that that's already happening with the current police commission, why would we need another citizen commission to?
Because this board would not have anything to do with the police. This board would be, even though the police commission does not have anything to do with the police either, there's a perception that because of the way that we operate, this would be a totally different board that would be not, selected from certain demographics so that people could be representing, marginalized communities.
We already have that.
But you know what? You're preaching to the choir. But
I'm like, okay, this is my brain is hurting, Karen. This is making my brain hurt. Like,
but technically, It is not, there's no, we wouldn't be meeting with the police chief, in the way that we do. There would be, I know. But again, I think
so, like eventually, so then what would happen is this new board, we'll call it the Citizen Oversight Board, is then also going to get a perception that it's too involved with the police because it's part of the police. And then that's going to be a problem. And then we'll need another board on top of that. And we're going to call it the Citizen Patrol of the Police Board.
Many cities do this. Big metropolitan areas have citizen oversight, have control boards, and they're successful. This is Burlington is a 43,000, 44,000 strong. I don't think two boards.
I tell people, my husband and I
want to give these people credit. Okay, so I want to give Carrie Freeman, it's her proposal. I will be seeing her on Thursday, and we will be talking about this. And if I don't get it right, I don't want to do the proposal injustice. I want to make sure that everybody knows how to read it. And if they need a distinction made between the current police commission and the ballot item, they need to call their city councilor and they need to say, what is the difference? Why do I need this? Because if you don't care, you're either going to vote for it or against it, and you're not going to know. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not here to bash the citizens oversight. I'm here to say the police commission, this is what the police commission does.
Yeah, it's already happening.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying it's exactly the same. There's some differences, and I think people should get educated and learned about it. Just like they should watch John Murad's.
I agree. We're going to add that as a link.
Okay.
But so Karen, there's a question for you from Jeff Comstock.
Oh, okay.
This is a doozy. He says, Karen, why is this now about wanting Black people wanting to be safe? Your role as police commissioner is public safety for all, not the people of some special bucket.
Oh.
I feel it is inappropriate for you to characterize yourself as marginalized. Would you like to respond?
Sure. Yeah, that's okay, Jeff. You're allowed to have your opinion.
That is a fair question, though. Like when we start segregating people and saying some people deserve special.
Yeah.
I think that's the perception.
I think to really unpack that would probably take more time than we have here. But I think, I come from a very diverse background, and I think all people need to be protected. I think sworn officers swear to that. And I think we have some statistics to show that doesn't always happen. So Jeff, you and I can have a conversation about this anytime you want, but I'm not going to change my answer.
Yeah. That is a strong perception. I think that people, especially, Vermonters, feel like, we're all being, I'll speak for myself, and my husband and I have had this conversation many times, is, when you call me a racist, when you say that there's a virus in my brain and that I'm automatically a racist without providing any evidence, and I don't mean you, I'm the parochial you, like you lose me, and because it's not true and you can't provide me evidence for that. And so I think that there is a fatigue for people in Burlington, especially because we are such a progressive city and people do work really hard to be inclusive. I mean, it previously was, before I moved away in 2010, I would have said it was the most progressive city in the country that I had been to, where you could, whoever you were, you could let your freak flag fly and nobody cared and nobody bothered you because everybody else was also letting their freak flag fly. And so when I, as a Vermonter, get told that I'm a racist just because of my skin tone, it's like, you've not any credibility.
Yeah, I don't think that's what Jeff's question really was centered around. I think he was talking about wanting marginalized communities to be represented. And that's definitely a part of the charter change, that this would be elevated because
no, I don't think that's what Jeff meant. I don't think Jeff was concerned about marginalized people being represented. I think
quoted me as saying marginalized.
that the concern was that there's now a special group that needs to be protected above all others. That was what I got from his question.
Yeah, and no, every sworn officer takes an oath to protect everyone. But there is bias, and there's all kinds of statistics national that you can point to that police need reform. So whether it's the control board, police commission, what have you,
Well, when you say, oh, go ahead, sorry.
policing needs reform, and there are racial disparities. So I'm not going to say that there's not. And in terms of calling people racists, I mean, there's a big contingent of people doing that right now in Burlington, and everybody's escalated, and people want to have those conversations with me about, like, well, how can I be a racist? Hey man, that's not my work for to do for you. What I'm saying is, listen, there are disparities. That's what this is about. And you know what? People say, oh, well, you recreated it in Burlington. Nothing was happening here. And you recreated it in Burlington. Not a single person came out for that woman that had an officer complaint against Officer Drinkwine, and he was charged. Not one person went out in front of that police station and said, wow, we care about her. That shouldn't have happened.
I apologize. I actually am not familiar with the case that you're talking about. And I'm sorry.
You know why? Because the things that get attention are the inflammatory things, are the things that everybody wants to get into it about. And I won't go there. I'm a numbers person. I'm a data person. I'm an educator. And look, there are some great pieces of information that the people in the city have gone through a lot of trouble to make. And that is the chief's work that's on YouTube. That's the resolutions that you can read. Those took a long time, whether you agree with them or not. They took a long time. They've been implemented. And this is a ballot item that's going on your ballot. So it doesn't really matter what you think about race or people's this and that. That's all what we're supposed to be getting up in arms about. But what we really should be doing is reading and paying attention. And it will affect all of us. And where it will affect us is creating government redundancies. For me, I would like to see reforms enacted. And so if they can't be enacted, if there's a bunch of redundancy, and I do care about that because I'm a Black person, that's my perspective. I also care about my neighbor who has dementia and might walk out in the middle of the street and be victimized because there's not enough police officers. You can care about multiple issues. You need to be really clear on that.
Would the Citizen Oversight Board also have oversight of the police commission?
I don't think so. The police commission is spoken about like in a separate body. So I don't really know. Again, I should pay more attention to, I'm on the joint committee and I do, hear about this, but I'm not on the city council. So
there's so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, did we have another question?
There was one comment since you guys talking about stats.
Yeah.
Eric Dion says, Detroit has defunded police by 20% since 2014. Violent crime is way up since then. Learn from other cities in the states.
Yeah, there are a number of cities that have defunded police and have seen their crime skyrocket, violent crime skyrocket.
Well, Camden, New Jersey is always one that is put out there. People want to say, oh, they were successful, but it didn't take too long for that to fall apart. Now,
well, that's also not true. So that example is not a real example because they didn't defund their police. They restructured the policing and those officers became county officers. So they actually increased the number of officers who were patrolling that area. So that whole thing is a misnomer. They didn't defund their police. They shifted their resources and combined with the county and actually had more patrol officers and more police generally.
And they didn't have good results but what they did though is they didn't call it defunding. They called it like a reallocation or something like that, but it's always something that's thrown out there as something that was successful. And it was successful for a very short time. And I'm not saying that we don't need reform and we don't need to look at how many police officers we have. I do know that we live in Burlington, Vermont, and we just don't. I'm from Orlando. Y'all don't have crime compared to Orlando, or you're in Texas right now. You're broadcasting from Texas.
Oh, I get an Amber Alert once at least every day.
Yeah, but again, to come together as a community, read everything that's available, and make intelligent decisions and advocate for those things really is the way to go.
And I think that might be okay. We could probably talk all night about this stuff, Karen, but we've been an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm gonna put a pin in that. You've mentioned that many times this evening, is read, get involved, do something, right? I think that is so important to highlight, because one of the reasons I think we don't trust, or some people don't trust the police commission, why we don't trust our city councilors, why we don't trust the police, why we don't trust people, is because we're not a community anymore. Everybody, and this is pre-COVID. Okay. So let's just take 2020 out of the picture and this nonsense. Even before COVID, how many of your neighbors do you know? Know their names? Know what the lady down the street, I have a couple of older ladies that live by themselves on our street, and I go, I wonder who's shoveling their driveway. I wonder how they get their groceries. Am I taking the time to make sure that those people are being taken care of? Are you, and I don't mean you, Karen, but I mean, are you the watcher? Are you the listener? Are you sitting there complaining about the way that things are, or how the police can't be trusted, or, everything is wrong? And it's like, do you know who your neighbors are? And wouldn't it be more likely, how much more social capital would we have if people actually got involved, instead of just retreating into their own house and just worrying about only themselves?
Well, that's such a beautiful point, and I'm so glad that you bring that up, because 10 years ago, we weren't on Facebook complaining. We talked to each other. And 10 years before that, let's talk about the worst crime we've ever experienced in our lifetime, which was Sandy Hook. Okay. My daughter went to that school. That crime happened because people didn't know their neighbors. There was things going on. You have your child at the firing range. There's an arsenal of weapons in that woman's house. People notice things. What happened after that crime? Oh, well, I didn't want to say anything, but I thought it was weird. I will always tell. I'm going to tell. If I see you walking across the street looking like you don't belong somewhere, I will always ask you, hey, can I help you? We don't do this. When someone who's very conservative hits you up on Facebook and says, hey, do you want to talk to me? You want to go on my show? I'm not the expert in policing, but I'm going to talk to you. You know why? Because you are my neighbor. You're my neighbor. And you know what? People want to know each other when it's time for a cookout, when it's time to talk about good stuff, when it's time to just rest and relax. Oh, COVID's over. But guess what? They don't want to know you when you have something to say, like, hey, I saw your boy walking down the street. He looked like something was up. We used to call each other on the phone. I saw your son downtown today. I raised my children in Montpelier. And let me tell you something. If one of my kids was somewhere they weren't supposed to be, I get a call. Did you know your boy was downtown? You want to talk about drugs? My son, he had his time. And you know what? It was short and it was quick and it was over, because we had a community of people doing this. So this is why we are where we are. Let's get it back together, you and me. Let's get it back together. Let's start now.
I love it. I just got goosebumps. I'm going to cry. Excuse me. Everybody thinks I have no feelings because I'm always ranting and angry, but I'm angry because I care.
I know.
And when I see my next door neighbors suffering needlessly, I don't know how to be anything other than angry. And, but this is it, Karen, and I love it. That's why I'm so glad you came on. That's why, it doesn't matter what party we are, party does not matter when we're talking about our neighbors and public safety and caring about one another and loving one another and making sure everyone is safe and happy and can pursue their dreams.
people said they want to get in contact with her, how should they do
Oh, great question. So some people are asking how they can reach out to you and ask questions and learn more. Would you share with people your contact? What's the best contact
The
information?
best contact for me is K, D as in David, UR, F as in Fred, double E,
Yep.
at burlingtonvt.gov.
Excellent. So
If you didn't get that, go to the city webpage, Burlington City Government, go to the Police Commission, just Google Burlington Police Commission. My email comes right up. You'll have no problem getting a hold of me.
and that's also where they'll be able to find information on the meetings
Sure.
and all that other stuff too, right?
Yeah, and I think you and I can work together to make sure that we're posting about those when they're coming up.
Absolutely. And if you think you can get anybody else to come on the program and talk to me, I would welcome it.
They're gonna chase my clout. They're gonna chase my clout. I think anybody running for office should come on this show.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and like, was I hostile? Was I mean?
I mean, this is the thing. It's like, we really do need to take every opportunity to step up. I'm not going to get everything right. I'm probably going to get a couple emails saying, well, you didn't say that right. Well, guess what? Get on the show. And, I will make sure on my page, just so everybody knows, like if you're looking for resources and you email me, I will make sure that you get a copy of the racial justice resolution. Because you know what? Honestly, when you read it, you're like, oh, okay, that's what happened, because it's racial and economic justice. And people don't want to hear the word racial, but it has to do with your city. It is the impetus for change. And it's not all bad. Don't be afraid of it. Do not be afraid of it. And then read the charter change that has to do with the Citizen Control Board. Make your own choice. This woman does not need to tell you how to make your own choice. You make your own choice, but do it educated.
Amen. That's the perfect pin. Anything else, babe, before we go? All right, Karen, hold on with me. I'm gonna close the meeting for everybody. So don't say anything embarrassing until I tell you it's safe. That's what I tell everybody. I know until I see it go off on Facebook. Don't say anything crazy. No, seriously. Thank you guys. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for your questions. I'm sorry, I got a new setup here, so I'm trying to figure out how to be able to read and ask questions, but love your participation. Thank you. If you have anybody else that you think we should interview and talk to, holler at me, let me know. We'll get it going, and we'll see you next week. All right. Excellent. So now let's see, how do I end my Facebook Live? And no. Stop.